And welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. This is a Big Ten releases statement. Kirk Herbstreit inserts mouth into foot, and we react to Michigan planting a flag on the 50-yard line and Jack Sawyer saying, not today. And everybody's got an opinion edition of the OHIO podcast. That was a mouthful. And, Kirk Herbstreit's used to that. That's Zack Gugenheim for the Big Ten football talk, joining me today here in the OHIO podcast. Zack, what a week, man. You are a Buckeye fan. I am a Buckeye fan, which meant this week was probably a very difficult week for the both of us. That being said, I wanted to bring on someone for this special video who I knew would probably have a different approach and maybe a little bit of a different opinion than myself in this topic. So let's dive right into this, Zack.
All right.
This is juicy. And a couple days ago, I posted a picture of the incident, and I just asked for, was this justified? Was Jack Sawyer justified in his actions? And comment. 1.8 thousand comments on just that question with the picture. This is something people are very opinionated about, Zack.
They're fired up, and they should be, right? Like, this is, in a lot of ways, this is what rivalry is, right? It's big things that happen, and people are getting, Kirk in particular getting upset. And let's not forget that weirdos in Alabama poison trees over rivalry. So, like, flag planting, it's, we've seen worse. Worse. So, but I mean, I have more thoughts on it, but I mean, it's just, this is part of what makes rivalry. And certainly not, you don't want to see it, but at the way it happened and everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, all right, you guys are showing, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Go right to your question, and then we'll get into the discussion.
So let me set this up by saying I was at the game. I saw everything unfold. It was confusing. It was anger. It was made me very angry. It's been a long time since I've been in a altercation with another human being where fists were drawn. That almost happened to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was something that got my blood boiling. And a part of it, and I'll get to Ryan Day and his involvement or lack thereof in a minute, but with all of this. But you all saw it, and if you're watching this video, you knew what happened. You know what happened. So the Big Ten, I think it was maybe 48 hours after the game released their statement and their fines for the universities. So let me read that. This is the official statement from the Big Ten. The Big Ten Conference has determined that the actions of both teams following the Michigan-Ohio State football game on Saturday, November 30th, 2024, violated the Big Ten sportsmanship policy. Not only did the actions of both teams violate fundamental elements of sportsmanship, such as respect and civility, the nature of the incident also jeopardized the safety of the participants and bystanders. As a result of these violations, the Big Ten Conference has issued an institutional fine to both the University of Dum and the Ohio State University in the amount of $100,000 each. The Big Ten Conference considers this matter concluded and will have no further comment. So, Zack, your reactions to what the Big Ten has laid out?
I mean, I think it's fair. I mean, I think a fine is enough. It's saying, hey, this is unacceptable behavior. Particularly, I think the flag planting is one thing. It's the conflict and the altercation afterwards. And like, I think it's enough. I think it's fine. It stinks that this is kind of how it ended. But the reality is things are boiling over for Ohio State. And, I think Michigan, whether fair or not, everybody was telling them they had no shot in this game. They had a terrible season. And then Ryan Day had the pucker meter go up, and they win that game. And, you get excited. And, I can see from Michigan's perspective, plant the flag, right? From Jack Sawyer's perspective, absolutely not. And I've heard people say for Jack, and I think I've said it for Ohio State as a whole. Where was the fight on the field? Jack Sawyer was playing he had a good game. He had a pick, but I think you can say that for the rest of the team. Where was the fight during the game? But I think that's more about the coach than it is about the players.
Absolutely.
But you got to do something because it could harm bystanders. It could harm players on the field. So you got to do something. But I don't think it's to the level of suspensions or, sitting for a half or anything like that. So I think the Big Ten made a good call. Let's fine each of them. It's a slap in the wrist, if we're honest with ourselves, like $100,000. To me, it's not a slap on the wrist. That's like bankruptcy. But for Big Ten institutions, that's, it's a slap on the wrist. But it's enough to get their attention and to say, don't do it again. And I think that's fine.
So, of course, right away, Kirk Herbstreit's got to put his 2 cents in because, that's what he thinks he needs to do. I really wish Kirk Herbstreit is someone who Buckeye fans could cheer for. Mm-hmm. The more he talks, the more I dislike the guy. Sorry that your dog passed away, buddy. I really am. But can you show your alma mater a little bit more respect than you do? Just one time. Just one time. That's all I ask. Here's Kirk Herbstreit's response, Zach. Let's read that one. I think any conference commissioner who had a team or teams involved in the post-game fights owes it to his conference and the sport of college football to study the film very closely and sit anyone who was involved in being an aggressor to help escalate the situation. Sit those involved for their next game, whether it's a bowl game or playoff game. These dudes need consequences for their own good.
So I think it's funny because on one sense, I agree that consequences are needed, right? Don't behave in a certain way. I think the irony, and I think this is why there is a frustration with Kirk amongst Buckeye fans, is it's a bit rich coming from a guy who works for an organization that is trying to sell you on the hatred of this rivalry. And so you have video packages with fights, with Ohio State tearing down the Michigan banner, with all the junk that goes on between these two teams, with Marcus Hall flipping the double bird, and then they're like, oh, by the way, let's take the moral high ground. It's that's just hypocrisy, right?
Well, I think the frustration from Ohio State fans comes from the fact that on the very set sitting across from him is someone named Desmond Howard who unapologetically hoists the Block M up every single opportunity he gets, while Kirk Herbstreit's professionalism seems to go against him ever hoisting up the Script Ohio in his life publicly, right?
Yeah.
And this all stems back from the time when Kirk Herbstreit has some, I guess, perceived, disputes with Buckeye fans back when he was on 1460 The Fan in Columbus, the radio station, and he was doing the radio station, but then he was going on ESPN when College Game Day was just starting to get popular a long time ago, and would pick against Ohio State, and you'd have crazy Ohio State fan make stupid threat against him, and his family.
Yeah.
And he has held that grudge, and in some weird self-sacrificial way, he's held that grudge and has just gone over the top against the fan base for some reason. That's why I think Ohio State fans are irritated with him. And this is just another case of him, I think, going over the top. Look, dude, I'm sorry you never got in a scuffle in football, Kirk. Please.
Yeah.
Come on.
This feels like a get off my lawn type of
response.
Yes. Like, well, and I think, to be fair, and I'm coming at this from the fact that I both run a Big Ten show and I'm on another Big Ten show with JR, is we do try, and you know this from being on my show, like I try to, like I wear my Buckeye leaves loud and proud, but when it's coming to actually looking at the Big Ten and looking at the college football landscape in general, it's like, okay, I've got to put that away. And there is a pressure there. There is a tension there. And so I give Kirk a lot of the benefit of the doubt. But I think what's hard is when he says a comment like this, when you know darn well that ESPN's going to show this and they're going to make money off of it. And not only that, but I think to your point about Dez, like I think what's frustrating, Ohio State fans are more knowledgeable than people give credit for. Like, we're crazy. And other fan bases will say this, when they connect with 90% of Ohio State fans, they are more knowledgeable than most fan bases, because that's, like, in some senses, that's what we care about most is college football.
Sure.
And so, and I think it's similar, like a lot, like we've been on the skeptical of Ryan Day train for a while, and Josh Pate and college football nerds, all these people are like, why would you fire Ryan Day? And now he loses 4 in a row and they're like, oh, I don't know if Ryan Day gets the rivalry. And we're like, seriously? Like, you've been on that train for the past 3 years and you've been telling us it's fine, everything's fine. We're like, we know our own program,
right?
And not only that, but we know a lot more about the surrounding programs around us than people give us credit for. And so sometimes it feels like Kirk, he could be more pro Ohio State and do it in a way that's intelligent, right? Unlike the person sitting across the desk who is an idiot. Like, if I'm like, right. Desmond Howard, I don't want to make this a Desmond Howard show. I honestly don't understand any value that he brings from an analytical perspective whatsoever. Like, there's zero. And like, when you fired guys like David Pollock and RG3, like, I wasn't a big RG3 guy, but like, when you fire guys like that who add value, add analysis, actually pick real playoff teams to make the playoff, like, I just don't understand why he's on there to begin with. And then you have Kirk, who feels like he goes so much the other way. And like, I get it. Like, he's trying to be professional, and I really give him a lot of credit for that. But Ohio State fans are smart, and they know when their team is good, or they know when things are up. And it seems like sometimes he almost treats the fan base. I'm not saying this is definitively what he thinks, but what it feels like is he treats the fan base like we're ignorant and we don't know what we're talking about. And I would actually argue that we're a pretty intelligent fan base that knows our program, that knows college football, and we're often, with a bias, but we're often picking out other hypocrisies, whether it be SEC, team up north, all that junk. And I feel like Kirk just, I don't think he knows how to relate to the fan base.
He toes the company line.
Yeah. Yeah. And he'll say that he doesn't care, right? Like, he gave an interview where, he's cursing up a storm and he's like, I don't give a, and it's like, dude, I've seen you, like, as a fellow tweeter, right? I'll be honest. I care. I don't want to, but I care what people say about me because I'm an insecure human. Like, and I need to, like, I want to grow in that. I want to learn that. Kirk, you are so insecure.
Right.
Like, you tweet at everybody.
I mean, how many times is the guy
Like,
going to cry on national television? Like,
yeah,
don't sit there and act like you're so hard, man.
Yeah.
I get you. I get you. And I thought it was interesting that he had to put his 2 cents in, but that's really not what this video is about. This video is about whether Jack Sawyer, his reaction and his actions were justified with the flag planting. That's what this video really needs to be about. I threw Kirk Herbstreit in there because whenever I get a chance to give him a jab, I do.
That's fair.
All right. So I have 1.8 thousand comments we can scroll through.
That's awesome.
We're not going to do that. We're going to scroll through several, but I just, before we dive into any of them, give me a quick 2-minute response. Was it justified?
I don't know if it's justified, but I can understand it. Which is like the most non-answer that I could give, right? But like,
yeah.
I think, but like, seriously, like, should he have done it? Like, probably not. But like, dude's a senior. He's a captain. He's given his blood, sweat, and tears for this program. He sees disrespect. His coach isn't doing anything. Like, and he doesn't want to see them plant the flag. Like, in the heat of the moment, I'm like, if I were ministering to him and being like, hey, I think you need to, not do that again. But like, I don't know if I blame him either.
Right.
Like, I think anybody who's sitting there, like, I didn't love it as a fan. But I think if I put myself in Jack Sawyer's shoes, I'm like it's a lot easier to say he shouldn't have done it than to actually go through it.
So I knew you. I know you well enough to know that you're gonna take the good guy side of this thing, and you should probably know me by now. Know me well enough to know that I'm like, Jack, just go rip it down, baby. Just rip it down. This is what this is about. Yeah. So my beef is with Ryan, and we'll get to that. Yeah. Do I think that Jack's actions were justified? I do. I think that it's planting a flag on someone's home field in a 50-yard line is classless. I think it does go against being. It shows that you are a sore winner, is what it shows. And I think that when someone's a sore winner, being a sore loser can be okay sometimes, because at least it does. To me, this was a moment in time we will look back on, just like our fathers look back on tearing down the Go Blue banner. Same exact thing, just in a 21st century, 2024 post COVID era. Is what that was right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no social distancing going on in the 50-yard line after the game.
No.
So
there's a callback right there. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah. So anyways, I think it was justified. Let's dive into these comments, because that's going to spur on more of what we feel. So let's do this. Let's dive into it. This is going to be a lot of fun. I love doing this. So here it was. It was just a simple comment with a picture. Was Jack Sawyer justified in his actions? We want to know your thoughts. Were on the post-game flag planting incident from the past Saturday. Thoughts were on the post-game flag planting incident from this past Saturday. 1.8 thousand comments. Here we go. Justin Anderson. I'm not sure what all the crying is about from both sides. You feel justified in you being disrespectful, but disrespect has consequences, so feel free to plant the flag, but if someone takes it from you or starts a fight, now they are both bad guys. Soft generation. Zach, these are for you to start. If you want to comment, feel free. If not, just say next.
Well, I'm having I'm not seeing them up here, so I was.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Boop.
Aha, there we go. All right. I was
Thank
like,
you.
wait a minute.
I got ahead of myself.
No, you're good. So there's the top comment.
Yep. I can read it again if you want me to. Justin Anderson, I'm not sure what all the crying is about from both sides. You may feel justified in you being disrespectful, but disrespect has consequences. So feel free to plant the flag, but if someone takes it from you or starts a fight, now they are the bad guy. Soft generation.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like that in some ways sums up my thoughts.
Okay.
Like, and maybe not the soft generation part, but like, there's consequences to what you do. So like, you're free to plant the flag, and you're free to deal with the consequences, and you're free to, and you're free to tear it down, and you're free to deal with the consequences. Like, I think that's, I think that's. I was gonna say, me both as probably a goody two shoes, but also as I try to find as much nuance as possible, and I think that hits, I think, maybe the sweet spot for me.
Okay, cool. That's probably the best one to start off on then, if that hits the sweet spot. How about Cameron Buchanan? Absolutely, he was protecting his home. Why is this even debatable? Now, to me, that's the sweet spot. He's protecting his home.
Yeah, and I think, I think restraint is a virtue, but I do think I'll put it this way, if it was someone else other than Jack, if it was I was about to say Kyle McCord, and I'm like, that's not it.
Will Howard.
If it was Will Howard, I'd be like, dude.
What if it was the kicker?
I think I might have taken the flag and hit him over the head with the darn thing.
Fielding's like, give me that flag.
No, make the darn kick. Make one kick.
All right. Well, and that's funny because a part of me says you don't want them to plant the flag. Do something about it during the game. Make sure they can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's why I say if it were someone other than Jack, I'm like, but like Jack had a good game. Like he played fairly well in the game. He had a pick. That was a terribly thrown ball that was thrown right to him, but he still had a good game. And so I think I had the opinion before I thought about it more, like if they didn't want him to plant it, win the game. But I think realizing it was Jack and he actually played well, I'm like, I don't have as much of a problem with it.
Dakota Jaden Rucker says, not entirely, but it's all right ultimately because he played well and felt ripped off. It's normal to be angry in a football game, Michigan fans. Ohio State fans, it's normal for a team to celebrate after an upset. Both sides are wrong in this.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Okay. Zachary Fisher. First off, you always win with class. Second, disrespecting another opponent or school is never accepted. With that being said, being a good loser is when you admit defeat because you didn't execute, not fighting over a flag. Both teams are in the wrong.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these are very much like neither side was probably right in this, and I think it gets back to what you said, Eric. Like, don't plant the flag in the first place, but also like how are we responding to it?
Yeah.
But
how about Lamonte Trout here? Was he supposed to stand there and watch it?
Good question. Good question.
As a Buckeye fan, no.
Yeah.
I'm glad he did something about it as a Buckeye fan.
Yeah. Yeah. That I feel like it's just a helpful question to get into Jack's mindset.
Mm-hmm. Lee Rachel, one of our followers, friend of mine, he says, yes, he's justified. And for those saying we had 60 minutes to fight and prevent it from happening, I say this. Fighting for 60 minutes to win a game is not even close to fighting against disrespect once the game is over. Jack Sawyer just planted himself permanently in every future hype video for the game forever.
And you know who's going to play it? ESPN.
And Kirk Herbstreit.
And Kirk Herbstreit. And be like, oh, the passion of this rivalry. It's like, dude, shut up. You said he
Yeah.
should be suspended for that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tracy Simmons says not justified, but understandable. However, just because I understand does not mean I condone his actions. Planting a flag is disrespectful, and so is removing and throwing that planted flag on the ground. This has to end, and it starts with the coaches simply not allowing it to happen and respecting team logos.
I agree. That's probably mostly where I land, but I especially appreciate the last sentence. The coaches need to not allow it to happen.
Yes, let's get into that, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I'm
Which coach do you want to start with first?
Oh, I mean, I have a lot of pent up frustration with our own head coach. So maybe
Okay, so let's start with Sharon Moore.
Okay, Sharon Moore. Okay.
Sharon Moore acts like the guy who goes 0 for 10 from the free throw line, but somehow hits the game-winning free throw at the end and thinks everybody should lift him up on their shoulders because he happened to hit the game-winning free throw, but he was 0 for freaking 10 before that.
Yeah.
That's Sharon Moore. So, yeah, we beat you. We're 7-5. You were 7-5.
Yeah.
He needs to act with more class, number one.
Yeah.
I've been saying it. I will say it forever. I'll continue to say it. Football teams they take on the identity of the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take on Sharon Moore. So turning around and telling half of the stadium that's wearing scarlet and gray behind your bench, we own you, like some kind of troll job, shows you don't know how to win yet.
Yep.
Do you think Nick Saban? Do you think Urban Meyer? Woody Hayes would have turned around to opposing fans after a game and say, "We own you"?
Nope.
You know why? Because the good ones don't have to tell anybody they own them because they know that they already know that you know.
Yep. Yeah.
That's my feelings about Sharon Moore.
Yeah.
Sharon Moore is the guy who needs to get his mouth slapped.
Yeah.
And it'll happen.
Yeah.
By the way, 7-5 tells me you already did.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, if he thinks that they won the game, he needs his head examined. Because they didn't win the game. Ohio State lost it.
Yeah.
There's no way else to slice it. They were tied 10-10 at the first half, and they got their 10 points off of 6 plays and 5 yards. That's on Ohio State. That's not on the team up north.
If anything, he needs to tell Ryan Day, "I own you."
Yeah.
Not the fans. You know what I mean?
And that's true. That's very true right now. But yeah, I think Sharon Moore. It's funny because the whole comment of Ryan Day was born on third base. I just want to look at Sharon Moore and I'm like, isn't that what you just did? You inherited a national championship program. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. To start with a great program, to start with that job as your first head coaching opportunity, that's awesome. That's great. But let's not pretend that you've built this program into something great. You fired your offensive coordinator the day after the darn game, or a couple days after the game. You guys are terrible. This is the worst Michigan team I've seen in my lifetime, which is not in my lifetime. Worst Michigan team since 2009 or 2013. Somewhere those Michigan teams with Rich Rod and Brady Hoke. This is the worst team since that era.
Agreed. And which makes this even more painful as a Buckeye fan.
Yeah.
Especially since we had supposedly the $20 million roster.
Yeah.
That being said, let's flip it over to the other side. The actions of one Ryan Day. I have publicly said this on the show, so for those of you who have been and watched our live shows, you've already heard this. I'll say it again. Ryan Day had two options when it came to this incident. One, he needed to be just like some of his assistant coaches, jump in the melee and try to get his players back to the locker room.
Yep.
Or two, you go in there and you fight with them. Those were your two options. What you chose to do, stand there with a dumb look on your face like a doofus, was unacceptable and showed you are not a leader of this team. You're not a leader of men. And it proved everything about you that Chris Wilds has been saying is true.
Yeah.
At this point, it was at that moment, Zach, at that moment when I watched him stand there and do nothing, that I said, he's lost my support. He needs fired.
Yep.
That was the moment for me.
Yeah.
What about for you?
I mean, I was there before then, but that just confirmed it. I mean, I will probably watch the playoff game, but I don't know if I will spend another dime on Ohio State, like going to games or anything, until he's fired.
So the on our show, I'm with you. Chris is currently not wearing any Ohio State merchandise until Ryan Day gets fired. And I am not going back to a game as Ryan Day is head coach.
Yep.
Unless a miracle were to happen and we go win a natty. But I have zero hope that that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, even if it does, which, by the way, I'm of the opinion, and I apologize to you, Ohio State faithful, for my pessimism. I think whoever they get's going to blow them out, because I've seen this movie too many times where Ryan Day says everything's fixed. Ryan Day, it's funny. I'm mad at myself for falling for it again this past week, because he said they had that look in their eye, and he said they've prepared and they're ready. And I should have known when he said at the pregame interview, we got to start fast, and it's going to be a game to the fourth quarter. And I just sat there and I'm like, every time he says this, we stink. And every time he said, and I'm just sitting, I'm like, why is this going to be a fourth quarter game in your mind? Blow them out in the first two quarters. If you get up 2-3 scores, it's over. Like, they can't come back. And his mindset is, we got to get it to the fourth quarter. I'm like, are you the favorite or the underdog? What are you doing? But so, like, he has no feel in that game. But I think more importantly, when he is in crisis, he does not know how to act. And that's, I think, going back to the flag planting incident. You see it in football, in coaching games, like when he's playing Michigan and when he's caught where he doesn't know what to do, like he's just lost. And that's what he did with the flag planting incident. He did not know what to do. So instead of acting, or instead of, thinking of the next step, he did nothing.
He froze.
And listen, I get it. Like, you get into hard situations and you don't know what to do. I get that. I understand it. But if you're going to be the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, one of the top 5 programs, maybe top 3 in all of college football in terms of appeal, in terms of reach, in terms of how lucrative it is, and that's your response, get out. Like, just get out. Like, and I know we're going to have another show about his response to Bill Landis's question, but I was just like, if you think you're the guy, stop talking and do it. Because that's all he's been, is talk. Lead. Your players are leading. Some people don't like how they're leading, but they're leading.
And if you don't like how they're leading, then you need to model for them how you would like them to lead.
Exactly.
And he's not.
Yeah, like, so and this is a different scenario, but like being in ministry, If there is a problem on one of my campuses, I lead 4 different campuses and I have a whole team that I lead. If there is a problem on campus with our student leaders, that's a reflection ultimately on me.
Right.
Because I am the head of that group. Even though I'm not maybe on that campus all the time, I am investing in those staff who they are investing in those students. If something's going wrong, I am held accountable. And that's how it should be. They should be, hopefully taking cues from me and my leadership. And if my leadership is causing, infighting, insecurity, any of that stuff, that's because I am leading that way. Well, what have we seen in every Michigan game the past 4 years? Indecisiveness. They get tight. They get angry. They're not in control. Well, what does that mean? It means that's what the head coach is doing.
Exactly. Yep. The teams will model what the head coach. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. All right, let's skip down here. Because I think that was Tracy. How about Tom? Let's read Tom's comment here. They had a right to try and plant a flag on our field, and we had a right to defend it. Quit being so soft, people. This is football, and this is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. I expect us to do the same in Ann Arbor, and I expect them to defend it. If you all don't like it, perhaps golf or bowling competitions are a better fit for you. Man, I've seen some of them bowling competitions. They get brutal. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Tom. But I listen. I don't want Ohio State to go into Ann Arbor and plant a flag. I think that I would like to say that when we win, we show class. But that's my leadership style. Mm-hmm. Kelly Moore, he's my hero. Thank you, Mr. Sawyer, for stepping up and putting that flag where it belongs. So Kelly liked it.
Yeah.
Linda says, why does the NCAA allow flag planting by anybody? Remember when Baker Mayfield did it several years ago? Yeah, he was the first. He has been vilified. It should have been stopped then.
Why does the NCAA exist?
To slow play Michigan's suspension, apparently. That's about it. We'll see. Terry says, yes, disrespectful to do this on opposing turf, no matter who the teams are. We were doing our end of the game ritual with no disrespect to them. She is right.
Yeah.
We went over and was going to sing Carmen, Ohio, and they're the ones that kind of, hey, we're just going to demasculate you on your field type of thing. So, Again, I said it classless.
Yep.
Diana says, yes, you must protect your home. That's just a simple question. Yeah, go ahead. While I try to find the next one. Go ahead, Zach.
I was just say, I think I think that's why it's understandable why Jack did what he did. It's like you see it, you're at your home. I see a lot of comments like that. So again, I personally, if I were his coach, I'd be like you can't do that. But if I were also his coach, I'd be like, but I understand, and I'm kind of glad you did it, but don't do it again.
Yeah. How about Donna's comment? This is interesting. Absolutely, with exclamation marks, 100%. He showed that he has pride and respect for himself and to his teammates, coaches, and Buckeye Nation. I know he will never see this, but I'm proud of what he did. Yes, they lost the game, and that stung, of course. Jack, you did the right thing. That is an interesting way to look at that, Zach. Pride in himself, his teammates, his coaches, and Buckeye Nation. I don't disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's the question, how do you respond to something that we view as classless? And it's hard because it's like, well, I don't necessarily like it, but at the same time, I don't think they should have done it. So I think it is an interesting take.
Donna, I went back to that time several years ago when a Michigan player went in on the 50-yard line in Spartan Stadium and was taking his cleats and rubbing his the paint off of the S and the 50-yard line in Michigan State. Like taking someone's logo and basically just
stupid
and just disrespecting the logo. To me, it's a classless act. It shows that you are a classless human being. If that's what it takes for you to, and listen, this is where, because there's going to be a lot of Michigan people in the comments in this video, Zach. Right, right now they're taking their victory laps. Yep. They look at you and me having this conversation as us being whiny, like you being whiny Ohio State fans. Listen, dude. If the roles were reversed, there's going to be 101 Michigan podcasts doing the exact same thing that we're doing. So, get off your high horse. But there's one constant in all of these issues of the last 5-6 years. All the tunnel fights, the disrespecting of the Michigan State logo, the planting the flag at Ohio State now. The culture that is in place at Michigan, it's a winning culture. I will not deny that.
Yeah.
But it is a culture that these boys think they are better than everybody else. And because of that, they can do whatever they want. It's arrogant. It's pompous.
Yeah.
Our degree is better than everybody else's. No, it's not. Go look at what someone who graduates from Northwestern makes compared to what someone from Michigan makes. Okay? So it's not better than everybody else's. We're the Harvard of the Midwest. Okay? And we happen to be the best athletic programs too. Like this is literally, I've been to Ann Arbor. Half your stadium is full of Walmart Wolverines, people.
There we go.
Okay? So
well, and I think oh man, because I
know you run a Big Ten podcast,
but
I don't.
Yes, you have a bit more freedom. But I will say this: I think part of even, and I'm still trying to stay away from Signgate until everything comes out. But there is a reality that, that arrogance you're talking about, like they don't want to acknowledge that is cheating. And like, I think at the very minimum, they did illegal things to gain an advantage. And so how much of an advantage was it? The NCAA is going to kind of determine that for us. But even that, you see the hubris in it. And I do think it's something that is frustrating, not just for Ohio State fans, but I think for a lot of different fan bases where it's like, you guys keep doing these things and there's not a lot of consequences. I mean, let's not forget, I mean, they steal, they stole so many slogans, right? Like it was Ohio versus the world. It's like Michigan versus everybody. And I'm like, really? Like, did you just invent that 3 years ago? 2 years ago? Oh, just when the NCAA was after you? Like, what are we doing? Like, be original. It just feels, and what's frustrating is like, if Ohio State beats them like 70-0, this all goes away. And it's like, see, but like, because Ohio State decided to pucker up, it's like, well, you know what? Michigan does own us right now. And like, we got to own that. We got to not be okay with it. We're certainly not okay with it, but it's unfortunate because Ohio State the past couple of years has had a chance to kind of slam the door on this crap. And instead they've puckered. And that's like, now it's like, we're back to waiting for the NCAA to do something. It's like, well, they're probably not going to do anything because
I'm on record that I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the NCAA comes back and says you're guilty and takes away wins, I don't care.
Yeah.
You can't do what you did with this roster in this game.
Oh yeah. No.
And lose like that, I don't care anymore.
No.
Hey,
he needs to be fired.
Listen, folks, down in the comment section of this video, we want your opinion.
Yep.
Both sides, people who maybe aren't Ohio State or Michigan fans, we want to see your comments. It does two things for us. Number one, it helps the algorithm out, and it's good for conversation. That's why we make these videos. So we want to hear what you guys all have to say. Make sure you hit the like button if you're an Ohio State fan, or even if you're not and you like the content. Please subscribe. We had our best week of subscriptions ever here at the OHL Podcast this week, and so we appreciate everybody who has subscribed. Ring the bell, get notified when we have new videos, when we go live, so you don't miss a show. Zach, tell everybody where they can find the Big Ten Football Talk podcast at.
Yeah, Spotify, YouTube. We post once a week. You can also find me at the Big Ten Huddle. We go live Sunday night, Tuesday night.
Beautiful.
9 p.m.
Thank you so much, Zach. Guys, appreciate it. Appreciate you watching this video. You all know what to do here, man. Be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, Zach. OH.
I-O.
Go Bucks.